Hello, my name's Addie. I'm from De Montfort University in England. In my study, I'm going to be looking at NGOs. In the UK, these organisations are often called charities. They might support things like health, education, water, sanitation, or infrastructure development. In particular, I'd like to explore how NGOs listen to, work with, and engage with children and young people. In other words, how they participate. I believe that increasing participation in NGOs could help enhance something referred to as accountability. Some of these large NGOs are multi-million-pound organisations. There's general agreement that NGOs must be responsible in how they use their significant power. Accountability refers to the means through which power is used responsibly. It's really important to emphasise that NGOs can't possibly know the best way to act in every scenario, in every situation. Things change, there's too many variables. So accountability is actually about the processes and systems which are put in place to ensure that NGOs make good, responsible decisions and to demonstrate that they have made good, responsible decisions. Arguably, participation is a really important part of accountability. Certain authors will argue that participation can aid better programming. Children may have a better idea of what support is really needed, and they can tell you whether a program really works or not. However, participation is not just about using children and young people as a source of good data or information. The United Nations Convention on the Right of the Child states that children and young people have the right to be involved in decisions which affect their own lives. This rights-based view of participation changes how we look at accountability. If NGOs are to demonstrate that they're being responsible with their use of power, surely they must adopt systems and mechanisms which allow children to have a genuine influence on the decisions which will affect their own lives. Downward accountability is a term which focuses attention back onto beneficiaries. Advocates of this concept would argue that NGOs must genuinely engage with and be answerable to the communities they aim to serve, not just to those who provide funds. However, if NGOs just had to focus on downward accountability, life would be a lot simpler. But this isn't a perfect world. And the reality is NGOs have multiple accountabilities to lots of different stakeholders. All these different stakeholders inevitably think very differently. They all want NGOs to be responsible, but have different ideas about how the NGO should go about that, and want NGOs to prove their responsibility in different ways. NGOs who have to juggle these multiple expectations and accountabilities from lots of different stakeholders quite often struggle. In my study, I want to enter an honest and realistic dialogue about the challenges, dynamics, tensions, power struggles that exist. So rather than just focusing on one stakeholder and looking at the type of accountability systems that would just make them happy, I'm going to try to bring everything together to look at the issue holistically. To do this, I'm utilising a process called action research. This is where you bring together multiple stakeholders to understand and resolve problems of mutual interest. I intend to create a steering group, which I hope will break down some of the walls that usually prevent communication. Together, stakeholders will explore different systems which might help NGOs ensure and demonstrate responsibility. Rather than pulling in different directions, I hope that the steering group will be able to negotiate expectations and start moving in a unified direction. I accept that some stakeholders are less powerful than others, but in my research I will aim to provide tools that will give less powerful stakeholders a better fighting chance of having their voice heard. In action research, you work together to identify a problem and plan accordingly. Then you put the actions into place. Then you observe what happens, how things change and improve, reflect on how it went, how it might be done better, and then you start the process again. Effectively, I'm at the first stage of the action research process. In partnership with many others, I've started to identify some problems and started to plan some ideas about how they might be addressed. So far, I've undertaken an extensive literature review, drawing upon multiple theories and examples of best practice. I've talked to various academics and practitioners about the subject, and I've been to Uganda to explore what local communities and local young people and children think about the issue. I also need to give recognition to the NGO War Child UK, who have entered into a dialogue with me and who have helped me to explore some of the issues raised. However, action research is not just about developing theories, it's learning by doing. So inevitably I need to act to put some of my findings into practice. In order to do this, I've developed a practice model which I've named PIP, Participatory Inquiry and Practice. I hope to pilot this model in Uganda, taking a programme through the initial stages of problem identification through to project implementation and then evaluation. Throughout this model, we're going to implement certain accountability systems. At the end, we'll be able to evaluate whether those systems enhanced the programme. You might ask, how is it different from anything that's been done before? Well, the components of PIP aren't unique. There's some amazing examples of work out there, thousands of tools and methods that can help improve participation and accountability. But it doesn't seem like there's much point in reinventing the wheels. I'll steal these ideas, giving proper credit where it's due, of course. What is different about PIP is how these ideas are brought together. I've started by asking stakeholders what they want, what they like, what they need, and what problems they have. I'm going to try and respond to their needs and concerns, finding relevant tools and theories which might help, drawing from both research and practice. So far, I've put in elements from social work research, participatory monitoring and evaluation, social action, most significant change, systemic action research, ethnography, critical feminism, PRA, Action Aid ALP system, planned PAL systems, inclusive inquiry, collaborative inquiry, the humanitarian accountability programme standards, and a whole heap more. I'm effectively serving up a whole meal of possibilities, but it's me, in conjunction with the steering group, that will actually decide how PIP is developed. I have the initial parts of PIP, but it needs to be further developed. I don't claim to be there yet. We won't be able to see what's realistic or not until we take some action and put it into practice. For more information about how PIP's looking at the moment, please follow this link. Just before I finish, I'd like to draw attention to 3 key parts of PIP as it stands at the moment. The first is that PIP is participatory. Children and young people will be involved in every aspect of the project that PIP is piloted on, right from deciding what that project is. They'll be involved in research, monitoring and evaluation, budget management, and even evaluation. The second key feature is that PIP is systemic. This means that we look at the world as one big system with lots of parts that are all interrelated and connected. PIP will look at issues right from the perspective of the individual to the international perspective. The third key issue is that PIP is practitioner-based. This means that you shouldn't need somebody like me to replicate PIP at a later stage. All the elements of PIP should be able to be undertaken by NGO practitioners, children and young people. This means that PIP is a longer-term initiative, which allows time to build relationships and gain a deeper understanding of culture and context. Thank you very much for your time. If you'd like more information, please check out my blog or contact me via email or Skype. Thank you.